Namaskar. Uh, Welcome everyone to this wonderful series of discussions we have been having for the last 2 months. Uh, Continuing our tradition of interacting with eminent personalities and achievers in various fields, we are today honored to be able to interact and discuss with Dr. M.S. Gosavi sir. We have been trying to interact with as many dignitaries as possible to understand the various opportunities and challenges in the various sectors of human life, like health, environment, education, also social service. And today we are very privileged to be able to hear the views of Dr. Gosavi. He is a person who has contributed immensely to the field of education, someone who has been teaching and actively contributing to human welfare actually through the field of education for the past many decades. He has been awarded many many prestigious awards, and also has been at the helm of many organizations and institutions covering hundreds and thousands of students every year. He has mentored thousands of students and also has created many legendary teachers who are right now actively contributing towards the social and human welfare in a big way. So we are very glad to be able to interact and discuss with Dr. Gosavi today on the topic of education, spirituality, and science as a contributed holistic approach. So namaste, Dr. Gosavi sir. Welcome to this discussion, sir.
Thank you.
So I remember meeting you here in the ashram a couple of years ago, and
Yes.
It was a very brief but very interesting interaction that we had with you. We always wanted to invite you back for a discussion session. Sadly, we couldn't do it in the physical world, but this is interesting that we can meet in the virtual world and hear your thoughts, sir.
Yes.
So, sir, I would kindly request you to please say your opening thoughts on the subject that we have chosen today, and help us understand the concept of how science, spirituality, and education can go together, and how can this be a holistic approach for the times to come, sir. Could you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Sir, I don't think you can.
Now, this is a very fascinating subject. Education, science, and spirituality. In fact, what is required today is not only education or quality education, but it has to be very useful to the society. It has to be very effective in our practical life. It must produce self-confidence among the persons who are learners. And therefore, only one-sided education will not help. It has to be a blend of East and it has to be a blend of ancient heritage that we have and the science and technology that we are living today in the 21st century. Therefore, every learner, right from his 8th standard, has to concentrate on these three aspects: education, science, technology, and spirituality. Science includes technology. Spirituality and science are the two sides of the same coin. Today we are meeting on a day which is known after Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, 14th November and 27th of May. That is his Punyatithi. Nehru was the first modern thinker in India who blended East and West and understood the importance of science, spirituality, and education for building new India. We have in between forgotten that only education or quality education or technological education will help us. That will not work. we will have to have important holistic development of a personality which consists of 7 dimensions: physical, intellectual, social, psychological, spiritual, and like that. You see, the whole thing is mentioned in our Vedas and Upanishads. There is a theory of Panchakosh Vikasan. Panchakosh Vikasan implies that your health is number one, your contribution to the youth and to the nation. Therefore, Annamaya Kosh, Pranamaya Kosh, Vijnanamaya Kosh, Manomaya Kosh, and Anandamaya Kosh. These 5 koshas are described in Taittiriya Upanishad as a prelude for education, which produce leadership on one hand, and which will also produce good governance on the other hand. Education is for what? Education is for these 2 very prime important requirements of a modern society. That one has to lead in a particular field, one has to be very creative in that field, and one has also to give good governance in whatever he does and whatever governance capacity he has. Therefore, it is necessary that this Panchakosh Vikasan theory must be brought into play. Annamaya Kosh leads to health. Pranamaya Kosh leads to Kaushalya, dexterity, skills. Manomaya Kosh leads to vivek, rationality. Vijnanamaya Kosh leads to compassion, sensitivity. And lastly, see, Anandamaya Kosh leads to becoming grateful to whatever you are having and you are doing. You see, it is through gratitude that you increase the happiness in the society. In education, if science is coupled with education, you see, you are giving knowledge. We create a knowledge society, but that knowledge must produce a scientific temper and rational mind. And for that purpose, spirituality must be added to this particular phenomenon. It was Namdar Gopalakrishna Gokhale who, as early as in 1905, said that public life must be spiritualized. And when he was asked, what does that mean? How to spiritualize public life? He said, it's very simple. Only 3 things are to be brought from education, he says. Education we are already giving in a meaningful way, but it must make a learner fearless. It must make a learner selfless, and it must make a learner ceaseless. Unless a person has this attitude of mind to serve others through the knowledge and the capacities that he is building or she is building, it will be of no use. Our ancient heritage tells us that it was Yajnavalkya in those old days who first of all said that learning is for making a person or a learner more useful to the society. Is learner useful to the society? For that purpose, he must be given not only knowledge, but also attitude, but also skill, and must also good habits. So along with this knowledge, attitude, habits, and skills, education must be given properly right from 5th standard to 15th standard. And that must be spread in such a way that person becomes holistic. And therefore, it is necessary. A person must be first of all made fearless. Number 2, he must also be made selfless. He must have selflessness as a quality for contributing to the society. It is therefore necessary that a person, unless he is free from fear, he is concentrating upon helping others. And number 3, he is continuously involved in the work which is in hand. See, spirituality will automatically be inculcated in learning and in education. It's not a separate thing. You are not to do anything separate. You have to your education is for what? Education is for breeding confidence. Confidence is for building character. Character is breeding for capacities to be developed. And capacities produce capital, which gives you credit and ultimately again gives you a satisfaction that education enables the learner to be more useful to the society. So education should be meaningfully implemented in such a way that not only the character is built of a learner, but he is made totally compassionate, holistic, and more useful to the society. Scientific temper must be developed in him, and rationalism must prevail. He must know what is good and bad, and he must act on the good which is to be there. Therefore, Vivek is important, but at the same time, action and activity based on that is also important. Therefore, we must build up a society through education, where a person helps others, free from, unfairness or corruption, as we say, and enables, the whole society to stand with some integrated values, really leading ultimately to peace, prosperity, and progress. Therefore, these three aspects should be taken, and right from lower education level to research, education, how we can get these qualities should be discussed. So under science and technology, we must make a student aware that unless he is conversant with technology, he will not be able to contribute meaningfully to the modern world. And therefore, every person must become, addition to the knowledge that he has, technically competent. He must therefore have competency of innovation and creativity, competency of and competency of technical and ethical leadership. Unless these competencies are acquired in the educational process through a systematic way, and a teacher also has to be trained in that direction, education will not become any. And spirituality is, making the entire whole society, full of, service, quality service. Where quality service is required. That can come only through education and training. Training should be the important part of life. Lifelong training must be given for the various skills which he has to acquire based on his basic education which he has entered. Therefore, science, which includes technology, is a very important concomitant part of modern person's contribution for building a better world. And spirituality is self-service, giving service meaningfully, substantially to others. Vivekananda said in those days that those who live for others are already living, others are already dead. Those who work for themselves, there are many species, animals work for themselves. But that is the difference between human being and all other species. That human being can imagine certain things, develop his own ideas. Creative ideas can be converted into action, and therefore entrepreneurship can emerge. And it is this entrepreneurship which is going to play an important part in 21st century in various fields, whether it's agriculture, industry, or services. Therefore, to make a person entrepreneur, what effort we are making at present in education? Education should be not rote learning. It has to be very creative. And from that point of view, developing these three aspects in education meaningfully, making students more confident, creative, and make others Therefore, this webinar, I'm sure, will produce a sort of a pledge for the modern youth that he can take certain 5-6 steps while he is being educated or teachers are being giving learning to him. And that, philosophy will enable that particular youth to play a more meaningful role That is what I think. And from that point of view, this team should be developed.
Fantastic, sir. Thank you. That's a very valuable information. I also saw this video that is available about your life on YouTube, wherein they mentioned that you started learning Atharva Shirsha from a very early age. They say that something that you learned from a very early on age, and that somehow enabled you to go up to becoming what then became known as Saraswati Putra, they call you. They say that you have contributed so much in the field of education that they have been conferred with this title, which helped you shape up your entire life, your entire journey. So did that early introduction to a more, how can you say, a more in-depth understanding of this physical world, a more spiritual understanding of the physical world help you shape up your journey, sir?
Very important point you have raised. You see, in the of our development, parents have to play a very important role. See, today parents have no time to be with the words. It is necessary. My parents, you see, they were praying at different times. And we were just listening to what they are saying. You see, we got Atharva Shirsha, Ram Raksha, or many other things like that. And all these things have great samskaras, as we are rightly say, in our total lives. Education is not only, you see, college or school education. Much more things happen outside. And at that time, you see, if we are able to be in a very clean environment, to understand what is our duty, what is our parents' duty, how they are functioning, how they are making their life more meaningful. If those values are nurtured and seen and practiced by them, understood by us, then naturally our education and total development becomes totally, you see, different than otherwise. Therefore, this has a great impact. My mother used to say various stotras while she was cooking the food. And all that we were listening all the way. So without looking to the book, we just got all those things and we just went them learning by heart and saying every time in the evening by sitting together in for 30-40 minutes. So that creates a sort of a confidence and seriousness. And as I rightly said, you see, creativity in the mind of a person. See, happiness is not, you see, anything which can be purchased in the world. It has to be totally in our 24 hours work that we do. It's the quality of mind which we have to develop. Whatever it is, see, things happen. Things are going to happen. They are not controllable. Nobody can have any control on the things which are happening. In spite of science, technology, knowledge, and everything, see, things are going to happen. But what is through education we are acquiring is a response we should give to an event which is happening. This is more important. And different responses can come depending upon different types of education that we have inculcated in different systems. And therefore, this right attitude of mind, right response, and a sort of creating Shraddha in life is the main function of education. You see, Shraddha is something which is a great value in Indian culture, history, society, and literature. We have to have, you see, faith in what we are doing, faith in ourselves, faith in our teachers. Teachers must have faith in the institution in which they are working. The institutional people must have faith in the government that is functioning. So this is a mutual faith and understanding which plays a very important role. Otherwise, everybody has to do certain things. But if you do it with more Shraddha, more sort of self-confidence, that this can be done the way I want it to do, then it starts to see function. Your destiny is in your own hand. People in the earlier times had no facility of education, but they were very cultured and they have contributed meaningfully. Only with BA degree, all these people have led our country to such heights, which we, multiple education that we are having, we are not able to do anything. Because this is a very important part. Vyasanga Jala is very important. And Shraddha is another thing. So the education only will not play its part. It has to be with all these things, which is very important. And therefore parents along with teachers and the society at large. You see, it is necessary that society at large must appreciate the qualities of students whenever they are on the surface. You see, small events are there and a person acquires some skill or some number. See, appreciation is necessary. And appreciation means taking interest in the joy of others. If I get something, I will get joy. But if somebody else gets also, that also is a part of my joy. That type of philosophy we have to develop. So sharing and caring both must go hand in hand. And therefore only, you see, lecture method of learning and this knowledge will not play its part, as is being happening at the present. Every student is running after tuition. This hour, that hour, from morning to evening and evening to night. And then again you see where he is not able to do anything different than some others. So what is this? So this type of approach of parents to learning of the words and their children is also very important so far as we are concerned. And I am sure even if they spare half an hour every day with the children and tell them something, this is very useful. I think things will definitely change. Their knowledge and education and experience has no relevance to the living of the children. This is the present position. And that has to be changed. And teachers are only giving, you see, what they want to give from examination point of view. That is also not correct. See, there are various aspects of learning and in various important leading schools, these things are happening. That is why we have got students who are of that bright career. But everybody must have a chance to develop that bright career. And therefore, total education as such must be mingled with scientific temper and spiritual outlook in such a way that this quality will be automatically, say, a part of our total living.
Another point I would want you to help us understand, sir, because most of the times now, when a child is being sent to a school, because we also run a small school here in the ashram and we interact with parents on a regular basis. You must be interacting with thousands of parents on a regular basis. But what I feel from interaction is that their approach or attitude towards school or education is basically enabling the child to eventually start becoming a bread earner for the family, becoming a salaried person, or eventually become some kind of a professional person and start making money so that he or she could support their family. That I think is the basic outlook of education today, that you should not, there's no scope for skill development beyond what is necessary for a job. You know, there is no space for personality development which is not necessary for passing an interview. You know, so the entire focus of the parents, also not only the educational institutions but even society at large, of looking towards education is more towards making them vocationally trained rather than a person who is educated and learned. Would you want to comment on that, sir?
Yes, very important thing. You see, gone are the days when based on one degree, a person could lead his entire life and earn a livelihood. We are living in a 21st century where the world is very volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. And therefore, you see, one skill will not work. Even various skills we have to acquire, various degrees we have to acquire. Now, UGC has latest given the information that a student can learn 2 degrees simultaneously. He can have one online and he can have one regular. This is a very good opportunity. In fact, every student must think that whatever time he has, apart from the regular learning that he is having, see, he must acquire as many skills as possible. The writing is very important. Thinking is very important. Imagining and all these skills can be acquired. Skills are not gifts. They can be acquired by practice. And therefore, you are very right that occasionally a student is looking to an education as a job earning capacity to be built. It's not wrong. This is also correct. But while one job which he says a skill requires, he is not sure which skill that is, and with that skill whether he will get that job. Therefore, number of skills are to be acquired. And common skills are there. Character which is to be built is reflected in the personality of a person when he does certain things. So he has to be very vocal, he has to be very expressive, he must be thinking, he must be interacting, he must also be creative, and that must reflect in his personality wherever he goes. Therefore, number of skills are to be acquired right from age 10 to age 20, 25. This is the period when he has to be very, very skilled person. And it is not known which skills will work. Every skill is important and he is going to make use in his life in some time. That is number one. Number two, you see, jobs are changing. Jobs today which are existing in India, 80% of the jobs will not exist in 2050. 70% of the jobs in America will change in 25 years. And these 25 years are very useful and main life period of our children today. Therefore, you see, when number of jobs are changing, and of course, when the jobs are not existing, new jobs will come. New jobs will be created. And they have to acquire those skills. Therefore, machine learning which has come today, which was not there in the past, artificial intelligence which was not there in the past, big data which was there today, and all these things, you see, communication technology, Internet of Things, 3D printing, all these subjects are to be incorporated in the present syllabus. So as student can specialize in these areas right at the graduate level, even in the arts or commerce side. This is necessary. See, our syllabus is being revised and remodeled, but new subjects are to be introduced and they are to be taught the way they should be taught in the present times. Then only these skills students will be able to acquire properly. It's not that he on his own does or acquire one skill and becomes therefore a very person with a better job. It is necessary that common student must get the advantage. All students must get the advantage of various revolution which is going on in the field of education, industry, science and technology. And therefore, you see, it is necessary that new things, everybody has to have a changed mind. Mindset has to be changed. Gone are the days with one education degree, one can lead his life entirely, as I have already said. These days are the days when you see in a knowledge society, you have to be on one hand technically competent for doing something which on your own you can do. Everybody therefore has to be an entrepreneur. Even though he gets a job, he must develop his entrepreneurship and leave the job and then become an entrepreneur. It's not that entrepreneurs are born or entrepreneurs can be created because one degree is acquired like that. What is necessary is jobs are to be there, experience is to be there, practice is to be there. But every student after 5-10 years must be able to stand on his own and create his own future, create a better society. If all things are being invented outside and we are taking only advantage, you see, where are we? Number of things are required for making our life more comfortable. And these scientists are thinking in that direction and giving us the comfort and all these objects. But what is contribution of India in this? This is what we have to ask. So knowledge is on one side, but this practical use of knowledge is another thing. And it is from this point of view that we feel that number of skills which are to be acquired and practice is to be constantly done. And longevity has increased. Longevity has gone to 70 now. So a student must think that he has to have that particular 50 years time after his graduation. And how will he make his life better by merely depending on one knowledge or one skill? Lifelong learning is the most important idea which we must generate among our students. You have to be a lifelong learner. Number two, you have to be a critical thinker. You must think. Nobody is thinking. Everybody is only running after certain things which somebody else is doing. Some time will have to be spent by everyone to think properly. And that has to be also taught in schools and colleges. How to think properly. Critical thinking is necessary. Number 3, change which is coming up must be led by these people. You must become a leader of change. We are resisting change. Our people are resisting change. Whenever a new thing comes, lot of energy is spent in, you see, how not to get it. And public property is being destroyed for this particular purpose. And this movement towards rationalism is very important. Rational thing can come only when you make changes. So change also must be welcome. A learner must become a leader of change. He must become a critical thinker. And he must remain a lifelong learner. And he must think that he is for others. Every student in the 8th standard can help another boy in the 5th standard by some skill which he has little more than the other. But is that happening? Therefore, we feel that in a class of 30, 5 students who are, you see, at the top, they must be chosen as leaders of that group, and they must be given some 30-40 minutes a day to mingle with the students, to give them qualities which they have. How they have become, you see, leaders, how they have become toppers, how they have become well-versed. And 5 students in a group of 30 are always there in every school. But what use we are making of this energy and talent that we have in the school? Teachers are teaching, and we are governing them and making them pass the examination. Apart from that, see, a student of his own age, as I was when I was a student, I was addressing the students in a group of 20 and discussing certain things with them. How to write, how to express, how to think, and what we should do. And everybody must be given an opportunity to increase his confidence. A teacher cannot do that. An institution cannot do that on its own. It has to be done meaningfully by sparing 30, 40, 60 minutes a day by students themselves sitting in a group, and only a teacher may be an observer, or a past student may be an observer if teacher is not available. Even past students can contribute. Meet the entrepreneur every month. This is our slogan from our own past students. If my student can become an entrepreneur of that order with whatever knowledge and technology he had in those days, today is a very changed circumstance whereby a student can easily learn from my past student that he can become, you see, more better entrepreneur than what he has become. So like that, you see, meet the entrepreneur, meet the industrialist, meet the executive, such programs for a group of 30 students, alternate days like that, and spending some 1 hour like that will make the students versatile. Their voice will increase, their values will be inculcated, and virtues will be created. I can also become like that. That type of inspiration can be given. And in education today, this facility is not there. So we have decided to have scholars club in college. Every class, A division, B division, C division, having 100 students, you see, they will have 3 scholars, 3 students who are toppers as scholars. And like that, for the entire FY class, there can be, if there are 5 divisions, 15 scholars. And they should be given opportunity to meet the class in a small group, not in hundreds. Maybe 20, maybe 30, maybe 10, depending upon, and discuss certain, there are certain qualities that. So this type of, you say, approach will have to be taken for making our education more rewarding, as you say, vocationally oriented, and giving them the satisfaction that yes, they have got certain qualities, and it's not only the degree paper, qualities are already there.
So, sir, one more point that I would want you to also help us understand is how should a parent, I mean, at the end of the day, the child spends 6 hours in the school, 7 hours in the school, and the rest of the whole 24 hours the child spends in his or her own home. How should a family atmosphere change? How should that evolve? How should the parental approach towards parenting itself you feel should change, so that the child then not only is able to access their own uniqueness, but also challenge their limitations, and then grow with education that they're gaining, sir?
Very good question. You see, we can divide the students in three groups, up to 10, up to 15, and up to 20. There can be three types of students before the parents. A different approach will have to be adopted. What common thing that parents can do with their children is to appreciate what they are doing, to know for themselves what they are doing. And you see, to give them some practical hints as to many qualities which are required in life, regularity, punctuality, cleanliness, and all that. And that they must set an example on their own. See, to keep your house clean, to keep your parisar environment clean, is a value which parents can inculcate in the students. This is number one. Number two is take a book of a little higher level and read before that particular student how that book is giving you new ideas or like that. You see, my father, at that time, you see, in those days, Panchatantra was the first book which was read by my father before our 5-6 brothers which were sitting in a group. Now, Panchatantra, you see, it's stories. See, education will become more powerful when it is conveyed through stories. So storytelling approach will have to be adopted. And parents must make an effort for that purpose, which stories to be told, when they are to be told, how they are to be told. So little exercise is necessary for this purpose. But once in a week, this can be done. Once in a week, some reading can be shown. Once in a week, some discussion can be made. Once in a week, some play can be there. You see, all these things are very important so far as parents are concerned. Whatever 30 minutes time you get in a day to meet the children, you see, this type of approach will help the children to acquire a multifaceted personality, to acquire certain qualities which are available in the parents. There is no close contact and there is no impact of what you have on the children. See, all those things that you have to keep yourself very clean, your house to be clean, your parisar to be clean, your books also to be handled very properly. All this respect for everything can be generated when you see that type of approach is there in this meeting. So it's not necessary that they must be very business-like during that particular time. It's all casual approaches. We inquire about certain things, about their friends. You see, every student gets his position if he has chosen very good friends. The higher quality friends that you have will make you with higher quality. Common quality, common quality. Lower quality with lower quality. Now it is up to you what is to be done. So one or two students, if they are to come in contact with your children, in the evening, you should inquire about them. You must go to their home, find out who are his friends, how they are working. You have to take, directly, indirectly, certain steps as a result of it. Your children will become, a sort of a person with great strengths. And the parent does not know who are his friends. And he has never made an approach to go to his home and find out what he is doing or what he is. Once in a blue moon, this has to be done. So that it's not required to go daily or even weekly or monthly. But that approach is very important. Similarly, your friends which will come, you should introduce your children to the friends of you that are coming there, so that he and ask him whatever good things he has. Let us sing a poem, let us read a lesson, and that type of confidence can be created. My elder brother always used to say, whenever his friends came in my room, that now you should, what is this first 5-year plan, what is second 5-year plan, please tell, we don't know anything. Like that, encouraging the children to go a little ahead and make their brain more versatile, is the function of parents. This has to be done. And once in a month, once in a blue moon, this has to be done. And there is enough time for this, for every parent. I'm sure.
True, sir. Because I personally have had this experience, because here living in the ashram, as a child, we used to meet people from all over the world, literally. We used to meet people from America. So I had friends from who were Europeans, Germans, Austrians, maybe even Chinese. So that helped us understand the world also in a bigger, better way, that we were exposed to global cultures in a different way. And that helped us understand that the world is a lot more than what we have seen around us, Secondly, I want to ask you, sir, that now, because there is a attitude that the teachers are supposed to groom the child, not only educationally but as a personality as well. Now there is a big challenge in that, because there was a time, like you also mentioned, that in the earlier time the parents and the teachers had a great camaraderie, and they used to work together in trying to make the child a better person. Even before that, maybe in the Gurukula times, the child used to be in the Gurukula from the very early age, from the age of 8 or 10, right up to the age of 16 or 18. And then in that 10-year period that they were there with the teacher, they used to learn every sort of skill, and they used to come back a complete person, right from, curriculum studies also towards even personality development, sports, martial art, all of that as well. So many now schools have started to do that, not starting to teach a lot of extracurricular in their daily timetable as well. How should you feel now that the teacher's attitude has to change? Because now the teacher has to be more than just a curriculum teacher. A teacher can't just be a math teacher anymore. A teacher can't be a science teacher anymore. He or she has to be now more or like a mentor or a guide, because that's the role that is expected. Because the parent, like you said, has to contribute but can't, because of both of the parents are working, and they are basically entrusting all of that responsibility to the school now. That we can't do it, we are not able to really manage it. Now we want the school to come forward and take care of it. So when you see the child misbehave, the first blame goes to school. Kya kar raha hai? So all of that we see happening around us. So I wanted to understand, how should the management, how should the institution, how should the teachers now evolve to face this challenge, and then come up with solutions to handle this situation better, sir?
Very good question, because you see, everything depends upon the quality of teacher. You see, and that quality is not a given thing. It can be nurtured properly. So main thing is, teacher has to have a 25-year span before him, and he must plan his career. Reading is very important of updated knowledge. He also must be given training every year, every 2 years, every 3 years of 7 days, 15 days, like that. You see, teacher training, Japan has illustrated through institution of training and retraining that education becomes qualitative only when teachers are given regular training. And the training is of a different type. You see, I have seen in Japan, you see, training program even for workers in the industry, like that. Teachers are also not exception to that. Every person after 50, having served the institution for 30, 25, 20, 30, 40 years, has also to undergone roto training. Roto training is what? You see, for 1 month, you see, they are taken out at a distance of 10 miles from the institution. And since in Japan, longevity is very high. You see, I visited Ikkyo near Tokyo, where 3 lakhs of people are above 100 at that time. And they have a record in the world, right from 1950 to 2020. More people of above 100 are existing in Japan. Longevity average is 87 and 90 for women and 87 for men. This is the average. Therefore, what they have done is, and they have different needs at that particular age. Therefore, every worker after 50 has to go to that particular 10 miles area, and their car will stop there, and they will enter the various houses which are there and serve those people, whatever their needs. Their needs are, the letter is to be written to a son or daughter. Newspaper is to be read. Medicine is to be brought. Food is to be served. Some element is there that is to be properly given service through a doctor. So all these things, and there are nobody in the house except these 1 or 2 persons who are already there of the same age. Therefore, these people above 50, they are given this 11 to 5 as training period, serving period with that particular family. And that family has to give a certificate. That is, whatever I told him, he has done it to our satisfaction. So somewhere, you see, in the kitchen, they have to go and prepare various articles of food for them also. So like that. And the person who is going has also to be actually well versed in that, and for that he has to take training. So that is the system. So it is, and they said we have taken this from India. It's a spiritual training to a person. His parents are somewhere else, but he's serving the parents of somebody else. And these are his parents like that. So yes, a son, now India also has that position. In every house, the son or the daughter is outside country. And they are only two together living. So who should serve them? So it is this new generation at some stage, even teachers with some experience, they should go and read to them. Sometimes should be spent properly and like that. So this is a particular method by which you can increase your versatility by coming in contact with the people who have led the life for a more time, experience and their understanding. And there you see philosophy of life enables you to learn which otherwise you have no opportunity to learn. And therefore, teachers are very important facilitators, mentors, and they are also persons who can guide in any circumstance. My own feeling is a teacher after 50 years, having given some service to the society, 20 years, 30 years, must become a counselor to the society. Anybody can come to him and ask his problem and get a solution. Is that happening today? The teachers are spending 30, 40 years in their particular profession, reading various things and making students learn many things. But they are not useful to the society. They themselves are not able to solve their own problems. How can they help others? So that is the quality of teachers. So teaching and learning will become effective only when there is a curriculum development, faculty training, assessment systematic, linkages to be built of the institution, and finally, identity to be established for each institution. These 5 things will make educational institutions more qualitative. You see. Curriculum change is necessary, but the teacher must also introduce some supplementary programs because curriculum also is a fixed curriculum for 3 years. And rapidly changes which are taking place in the world are to be brought before the students through seminars on various topics. So seminars must become a regular part of learning. Exhibitions must become a regular part of learning. And trips and tours also, field work also must become a regular part of learning and training, where teachers must involve themselves meaningfully so that they can also give their personality to the group. Where is the opportunity for the students to learn from the teacher? Various other qualities other than the subject which he or she is completing. So these are the opportunities. So seminar as a method of learning once a month and students themselves to be involved in this particular seminar. If there are 60 students in a class, say 10 students can form a group. There will be 6 groups. There can be 1 topic. There can be 6 subtopics. Each group will be given 1 subtopic. Each student has to write 1-page material on that subtopic that is to be discussed in the group, and group paper is to be prepared on the basis of their learning. Such 6 group papers will be discussed in all the groups jointly, creating a master paper. And that is the contribution of the students as a group for that particular subject, which is to be presented. And this will make the student more confident. Clarity of certain concepts will be there. And basically, you see, his understanding level will go up. So seminars in a very meaningful way to be taken 1 in a month for each class or each subject. This will go a long way in involving the teachers and making them more useful to the society. And as I said, teachers also must themselves attend conferences, participate in various things. So many opportunities are there, and they must write properly. You cannot just say that I will write a paper and that is published and ISBN number is given and all that. See, that's all right for promotion once in a movie. What is required is, you see, I was talking to Dr. Vijay the other day, but he said, how can you write a paper like in 2-3 days? I require 10 days to write 1 article, small article in a paper. If you want to produce a paper, at least 1 month thinking and interaction has to be there. And that has to be done. So paper writing like that will make a teacher a very quality teacher. Participation in seminar will make the students more qualitative rather than otherwise. And exhibition, what is to be, see, all several articles are prepared by the students as wealth from waste. Many articles in the schools are there. And they are to be, not that yesterday's are to be shown today. Every day, every month, every year, new things are to be done. And they are to be, opportunities are to be given to the students. And teachers' participation. And I find that today's teachers are doing this work. This type of work is going on. And they are making best of their effort in communicating with the students. See, because they also feel that mere textbook knowledge will not be of any use to them in their life. Therefore, these qualities are to be nurtured. And creativity, innovation, research, inquiry, and sort of leadership, communication, speaking ability, expressing ability, confidence, all these things come when they participate in a small group and present it. And appreciating this at appropriate time by the parents, by the teachers, by the institution goes a long way. Therefore, best students award, best teachers award, they will go a long way. See, this is also necessary, class-wise or even institution-wise or society-wise. We have involved this method for the last 30, 40 years we are practicing. And we feel, now there was no PhD when I entered as a secretary of the society in 1970s. I was the only PhD teacher on the staff. Today we have 700 PhDs on our staff. So I made a special effort that yes, you must register. You will have a guide, you will have a subject, you will have a multidisciplinary subject. You don't research in the subject in which you have got your master's degree. Have another subject like that. So interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary approach has to be there in research. And from that point of view, see, we are extremely proud that out of our 3,000 teachers that we have, 700 have acquired PhD in the last 20 years. Many of them are MPhils. Many of them are double master's degree holders. I said, we have got institutions, MBA and LLM and all that. You will just join them. We'll give facilities. Acquire a degree. It will not be waste. It will be very useful to you. If teachers become double degree holders, so their vision will increase. And they also remain students during that period. So that is the great advantage. So a teacher has to be also a lifelong learner. And he has to do some research in a very meaningful way. And my own experience is that teachers are contributing significantly with the facilities that we have. We cannot increase their pay. Whatever pay government says, government pays. Even in non-grant institutions, we can't increase their pay suddenly because there are many limitations. Everybody knows that. But we can give them facilities. And these facilities, writing a textbook, getting it, we have 100 publications of our staff. They have written and we have published and they have got the benefit like that. PhDs, 700 PhDs are there in a period of 20 years. Every month we are felicitating our PhD teachers.
Nice.
3, 4, 3, 4, 4, 5 like that. On 19th of every month, we have a function for that. For the last 50 months, we are felicitating our teachers, minimum 4, minimum 5 like that. Every month, they are acquiring PhD. And then we say, what is your subject? How you have done that? What was your methodology? Please tell us. So the others will benefit. So a discussion like that also will make a teacher more research oriented. We have introduced a research methodology as a diploma for our teachers and postgraduate students like that. So this also goes a long way for making our teaching and learning more qualitative. And my own suggestion is even BYK College in India is the only college out of 40,000, 50,000 colleges which has a provision of learning 30, 40 subjects at BCom level. And you can choose any subject. 6 papers are there for that subject. So we are the first in India to introduce BCom with computer, 1968. BCom with public relations, BCom with transport, BCom with risk management, like that, insurance and various subjects are there, including subjects which are normally not there, mountaineering, like that. So you can have a paper for mountaineering education and you can get a degree. So those who want to do that, sports must have a proper use, so space in our total education. So from that point of view, and We have 6 papers of our own for our BYK college. Out of 18 papers at BCom, FY, SY, TY, 6 papers at each level, 18 papers BCom degree course, all over India and all over world. 6 papers are of the college. We can decide which papers students will take. And like that for a particular public relations or insurance, or risk management, different types of management. So management has come as a discipline. So you can take any 6 paper course where 2 papers are foundation papers and 4 papers are specialization papers. And there is a project report for 60 days summer vacation. Student has to undertake, prepare a report, have a viva, and 200 marks are mentioned for that. So like that. So here is a degree where a student does his own project on his own with the guidance of a teacher. And there's a part of our final degree. BCom degree of Pune University is given to a student when our student completes his 60 days summer training and submits a project report, which is evaluated by external examiners, and viva is conducted on that for all 6,000 students. So here is a college where 6,000 students are practicing. They are becoming entrepreneurs. Employment is not a problem for our students. They have become professional. First of all, I said 50% of the students must be either chartered accountants or cost accountants. So this is your field. BCom is for that. You are not like BA or BSc. You have to go to a person to acquire clerkship. No, you become little professional. And now I was the first person to write to Chartered Accountants Institute that this professional training a student should have simultaneously with education. So when a student enters after 12th, the first year, he can enroll as a clerk, article clerk for accountants. So 3 years of article clerkship and 3 years of BCom degree. At the age of 18, when he gets a BCom degree, he is also a chartered accountant, provided he passes the examination where the result is 5%, 10%. But our students have shown that number one. So they become little more professional. Then management degree. Management degree is for middle management. So MBA, we have invented MBA for our university, all universities. I was the first to say, where is the degree where any graduate can apply for a master's position? There is no degree in any university, because if you have economics, you have to take economics at MA. You have chemistry, you have to take chemistry at BSc, like that MSc. So the same specialization is there. But if a graduate wants to take a different discipline, where is a master's degree? So I said introduce MBA, where any graduate can be an eligible person for MBA. Because management is multidisciplinary. Anybody can become a manager. It's not restricted to a particular discipline. So this philosophy was put before J.R.D. Tata and many other industrialists in those days. And they approved this, that yes, there can be 2-year master's program in business administration, and any graduate can become MBA, and he will be little better than others. I'm not saying that MBA will immediately become a very good manager or skilled manager, because he is going through a university discipline like any other discipline with little differences. Subjects may be taught by practical people. Project work may be there, viva may be there, field work will be there, journals will be there. Just as in science there is practical engineering, we have introduced practicals under MBA also, but there are limitations. So we are not claiming anything that we have done something, but different, you see, approach has been taken, where a student can make a different career and he can stand on his own after 5-6 years service. He can become a different entrepreneur. So that has an advantage. So we have given to the world about 10,000 MBAs, and most of them have become entrepreneurs, very successful, and they are ideals before the present students. They come and address them. They take pride in addressing the students. So this type of, and university has allowed such adjunct teachers as professors, because they are more useful to the students than our full-time teachers. So as you rightly said, you see, teachers have to become facilitators, mentors, research persons, and they have to keep themselves updated and help the students to different new career. Otherwise, teaching the same subject and making the student go in the same line, see, it requires nothing. He can sit at home and do that. If he is coming to the college for making a different career, creating a better world, as we say, it is necessary that this type of approach is to be. Then we introduced, you see, MBA in different disciplines: personnel management, financial management, production management, materials management, environment management, water management, soil management, and whatnot. In all sectors, this is introduced. And this can be a subject of research after MA or after MBA or after MSc. And I suggested to the university that even BCom students who are doing this and MPH student who is doing that, they should be given a BPhil degree of research, Bachelor of Philosophy. It's not different. And now UGC has agreed that 2 degrees can be given and acquired by the student simultaneously. So this was my hypothesis, that if an MBA student is doing extra work, doing a project work, 60 days training from 7 o'clock morning to 5 o'clock in the evening, and producing some work and his own finding and his own, you see, sort of analysis of a particular topic on the basis of data, so he deserves to give a BPhil degree. And therefore, you see, BPhil should be instituted in all universities, making students more research-oriented. It's not that after PhD you start research, or after MA you start MPhil and PhD as a research student. It can be done right in the school days. If creativity is to be encouraged in education, those students in schools and colleges who are producing certain things useful to the society in their own way, appreciation certificates should be given, and some students should be given more opportunity to do more research. And scientists should be given. Scientist as a career is to be developed and in different branches. So that is how I look to education, science, and spirituality as a contributory factor for making our total living more peaceful, happy, prosperous, and progressive.
So one more point that I wanted to understand, you said a very important point a little while ago, that the life expectancy is growing. Now earlier maybe it was mid 60s, now it is mid 70s, and many people with growing healthcare possibilities, health status also stays longer. But the early approach to life itself is more towards getting life goals, and then usually chasing society developed norms of excellence. And a child, when they are put into school, they are expected to perform at a certain level, get out of with a certain grade, get a particular job, buy a particular house. That trend, that approach to life that is out there right now is causing a lot of stress on people's minds, especially from a very early age, because when a child is appearing for an exam, the parent constantly tells them that if you don't score a particular level of grades, you might not get a good life going on forward. And that is causing a lot of stress on the child's mind. That is causing a lot of early burnouts in terms of professionals when they are in the workforce, because they feel that is maybe not their goal in life. They feel that life has a lot more to offer than just grades or 5-figure salaries or stuff like that. Also, I think that is leading to a lot of addictions, even in the early school age. Now we see a lot of addiction even from the school ages. Going to colleges is a big issue, and from there on forward, in the ages of 25 to 40, the addiction becomes an even bigger issue. So stress, addiction, all of these are basically linked to this approach that you are talking about, that the whole approach to education, whole approach to employability, and from there on forward needs to have a bigger overhaul, right? That's something, because the life is going to be a longer journey. It can't be just that you're planning for 50 years of age for retirement alone. You have to plan for the next 70 years, 75 years of your life as a journey. So would you suggest that the attitude of the child also should be different right from the schooling age, looking at life? I mean, because science, like they say, is only talking about the hows, not the whys of life. The whys are going to stare at you at some point in time, and that is going to become also a challenge. So what would you suggest to be the attitude or approach of a child looking at it? Because we have discussed what the parents should do, what the school and the teacher should do, but as a child going into school, going into college, what should be the approach to life itself, sir?
Another very important question, and this is you see, a very important lesson for Indian economy. it is necessary that some fundamental subjects must be taught up to a particular stage so that, see, liking can be developed. It cannot be developed immediately, and one cannot know who is going to what and what stage he will be earning and what type of occupation he will be playing or having. It is necessary that science subjects must be taught to all students. There should be no option for that. That is why we say education, science, and spirituality. Education includes everything. But science is a branch of education which gives the student, capacity to concentrate, think scientifically, and then acquire certain qualities by studying a particular subject. So physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology, computers, this is the basic thing for every child to learn. At what stage and what volume we should learn is to be decided. But that is possible. So 10th standard, now in Japan, it is 6 plus 6. Well, 12 years of education is divided into 6 plus 6. Up to 6, they are teaching only all this. But 6 plus 6 is all these subjects. See, all subjects are to be taught every year, but one subject to be taught in more details every year. So 6 subjects can be taught in 6 years, meaningfully. And these are science subjects. Along with, communication skill that a student must have. Because education is mainly communication. You know many things, but if you are not able to communicate or express, you will be backward. It will therefore be necessary that those who want to take that particular area, they can take. But most of the students must have these fundamentals, making him more competent for any specialization that he can have after 12th. So he should start at 6th. And all science subjects should be taught to all students. Initially, we may keep option. Those who want to take some subject, they will have some other subject for that. But mainly the idea is, if a student is to contribute to the betterness of the situation of the world, he must have science subjects at his commands, along with communication skill. This is basically necessary. The attitude of a child, is to be nurtured by the parents. Freedom is not to be given for that particular purpose, according to me. Rigorous training is necessary. Knowledge can be acquired only when you have a hard exercise behind it. And therefore, this is necessary. Self-learning is more important. So from that point of view, and you're right that our main problem in India is poverty, illiteracy. But that is reduced to 30% now. But 30% of the people are illiterate, 30% of the people are below the poverty line. But that does not mean that for all majority of the students that we are having, we should make the entire course in such a fluid stage that nobody comes with competencies. And therefore, economically, it's another problem where poverty is to be reduced and illiteracy is to be removed. Even if we have kept certain targets, we are not able to maintain those targets and achieve. But a day will come when this will be there. Minimum standard of living can be acquired. But we need not wait till that. We must, in education, take steps so that fundamental subjects are available as basic skills of learning, basic subjects of learning for a student. And then the choice can be given. Vocationalization also can be introduced earlier. Simultaneously, along with certain subjects, those who want, they can earn by acquiring skills. Let them do that work. But their education need not be stopped, or their school education should not be stopped. So like that, opportunities will have to be created. And this can be done. IT is important. Information technology is important. But it is necessary that we allow the students to get themselves mature before they go to the next stage. A fifth standard wala is not able to read what text of second standard. If that is the position, as has been said by many world level bodies, different countries have different situations, but India is there where this is the position. Therefore, it is necessary that students' attitudes can be developed by giving them some compulsory training in this particular way. And they really don't understand, as even parents don't understand, what is going to be exactly their future after 10 years or 5 years. Therefore, then why not take the best of the option which is available? And it is from that point of view that government also should immediately change certain steps. In fact, Marathi medium schools, if they are converted to English medium schools, grant should be continued for all schools. Up to a particular age, education has to be free. Up to 12th standard, education has to be free and must be available in the language in which they want, in the subjects with which they want. Doesn't matter. All subjects cannot be compulsory. But if there are 7 subjects, so 5 subjects can be compulsory. You can be an option like that. And for all students, you see, these are the subjects which will make them, see, persons with right attitude and contributing rightly little later. Employment can be generated only on the basis of the quality of learner which is before us. If learners are showing their qualities, jobs will be created for them. As we have created jobs today for a number of students which had not existed 10 years back. And certain jobs have gone today also. Certain situations have totally changed. And we are in, you see, number one is technology. Technology is taking very rapidly in all spheres. Medical sciences, technology is taking strides. And therefore, you see, doctor of today cannot be compared with doctor 10 years back or even 5 years back. And leave aside 20 years back. Therefore, you see, that type of knowledge must be given. And this is the foundation for that. Therefore, attitude, and another point which we have also raised is, there is stress on the students because of this particular situation in which we have kept them. But there should not be a stress. If education is made more, you see, sort of a friendly thing with them. We are talking eco-friendly, but we have to make education friendly. Education is sort of a burden to the students. 50% of the students feel that yes, there is a great burden. So examination is something dreadful for them. So that type of approach we have to do. And therefore continuous evaluation, right from the 1st of July to 31st of March. You have enough opportunity to evaluate the students. So last examination should be a formal examination. Whether he passes or doesn't pass is not very material for his promotion or also for his top position. It is necessary that continuous assessment of students and involving students in the learning that we are making available to you will go on, will reduce their burden or stress. Stress is otherwise also in life. Those who are not in education also are feeling stress. So stress is increasing in life because of the situation in which we are placed. But future is always uncertain and we don't know what is going to happen next moment. We are living in such situation. As you rightly said, we are in a volatile situation. We are in an uncertain situation. We are in a very ambiguous situation. And we are also in uncertain, ambiguous and complex situation. We really do not understand, even parents or teachers, they are not aware what exactly is going to be future for them. But even then, you see, among the resources which are available at present, we must live in the present and make that present more powerful, useful, and for increasing competencies of our learners. This is only in our hand. If competencies can be increased in a given time, in the present times, whatever situation may be, I think purpose of education is challenges can be converted into opportunities. It cannot be a world free from all these things. There will be more complex situations. And we will be faced, as we are facing Corona today. Number of things will come which we don't know and how long they will subsist. But what is in our hand is to increase our immunity, to increase our capacity, to increase our understanding, to remain awake of certain things, be aware of certain things, so that we are literally in a position to contribute something, to do something, and creating less stress on our body. This is the approach that, and this is spirituality.
Yeah.
This is nothing but spirituality.
Yes.
Spirituality is enabling the person to live in present with a relaxed mind.
Yes.
If mind cannot be relaxed, if mind cannot be properly, trained, in a period of 15 years of education that we are having, and we are same as we are having no education, a person on the street and a person in the educated field, no difference can be shown, then where is education? So this is what you see very important. Mind management is the main function of spirituality. And that can be done, you see, in education, side by side. In whatever things you do, you take a very, positive position. Take a very constructive approach. Take that, things are going to happen. So our philosophy, Indian philosophy has existed, Indian culture has existed for hundreds of centuries because of this approach. The approach is sarve sukhani santu, sarve bhadrani pasyantu, sarve santu niramaya. This is our philosophy. Nobody is excluded. Everybody is included. So our approach is total transparency, total innovation, and total inclusiveness. This will contribute for spirituality. Once you are transparent, there is no question of speaking truth. Transparency means doing something which is standing on the test of time. Innovation, doing everything differently. We live in that particular age where everything is to be done differently. Not different things are to be done, everything is to be done differently. And similarly, everyone is included, and therefore inclusiveness is the sine qua non of the present times. If all are equal, if God exists in every entity, where is the question? But that philosophy will have to be put into practice. So practical Vedanta has to be introduced. Spirituality is that you have to be very relaxed mind and face the situation as if nothing is going to happen. After all, what is going to happen is going to happen. But then why unnecessarily create a stress? Yes. Or it should happen in a particular way. Why should you insist? It will happen.
Sure.
So your duty is to live in the present, to take a very equitable approach, to help others, hurt never anybody, and love and listen. If you adopt this approach, you will become stressless. And the moment you become stressless, your mind becomes relaxed. And when your mind is relaxed, these questions will not come. You will become more comfortable and more, happy in the situation in which you are placed. So, like that approach will have to be properly developed in education.
This is a very, very important point, sir, because I think this is going to be the change point that defines value-based education and holistic approach to education and the contemporary what is going on. Because this is a very, very needed change that you rightly said, that a child should be told that the focus on life is to be sarve bhavantu sukhinaha. That at the end of the day, that we can't be happy or content on all alone. We need to think of the whole as a system and then approach it as a complete program or a complete package in life. And I think that is where I think things are going to be different. And this approach, I think, is the spiritual approach of the Vedanta, which I think got forgotten over time. And this is something that I think you're living on a daily basis. You are basically, I think, a living example of what is the Vedanta approach to value-based education. And I think that's why I wanted more people to hear about what you are doing and your approach, because this is what is at the end of the day, spirituality, as the Vedas have expounded, there is a very big difference in the understanding of spirituality. People believe that being spiritual is being ritualistic in life, that you have to follow religious rituals. That is not what Vedanta explained as spirituality. What you are doing, all the innovation that you are bringing in, all the new ideas and the new viewpoints you have brought into your own educational institutions, and by that leading example for others to now follow. I think that is what is value education. That is the holistic approach to education that needs to be now inculcated in a big way. I think that is something that even we here wanted to understand, because that has been something that we have been also working on individually as an organization also, because the Param Sadhguru's approach to spirituality was not ritual based spirituality. His approach to spirituality was human excellence. Go take the society towards excellence through individual excellence. So when an individual, a group, a family, or a society together approaches this excellence or value addition, I think that's when change will come through. I think this is something that is very, very important. Also, I think I would like to add here that we have tried to do something here in our own school with adding Agnihotra to the whole mix. By doing Agnihotra in the school, by teaching yoga also as part of curriculum. For instance, we have made farming as a subject for all classes. So the school that we have is till the 10th standard. From the pre-primary level, we allot them plots of land that the children have to cultivate. So they have to not only sow, but also harvest the crop, and then they take back part of the crop back home. Do yoga there, of course, do Agnihotra on the school premises. And this has also helped us in a big way. But I think there's a lot to learn from you, sir. So one day I would request you to make another visit here to Akkalkot, to interact with all our teachers here so that they can learn a lot from you. Because I think at the end of the day, human capital is everything, right? I mean, if we don't have development of human capital, there's nothing going to change. Because I always say that, like, a school is proud of their alumni, that they invite all the successful alumni back to school and interact with the children. We should also invite all the people who went wrong in life, and take their viewpoint also, because as a school is proud of their best product, why is school not responsible for all the people who went wrong in life? Why aren't the schools taking responsibility for that as well? But I think, like what you are saying, what you have been doing, I think that is a very, very beautiful approach, a more complete, holistic approach, which I think it could help people, society, schools, students, parents understand the concept of education in a big way. So thank you, sir, for spending this wonderful time with us. Thank you for giving us these valuable insights into all the work that you've been doing. And most importantly, for helping us understand that education also needs to be a holistic approach. Science and spirituality need to go together for an individual to really rise up and become a complete person in their lives. Thank you so very much for shedding light on very important topics, because going forward, these are going to be important. And we want to use them here in our work as well. See that we can also add something to what you have been doing. So thank you from my end. Thank you from everybody's end as well. Thank you so much for helping us understand what can be done, what needs to be done, and what you are already doing. So we are very grateful, and we look forward to many more interactions with you, sir, in the future. Thank you so much.